President Donald Trump issued his Thanksgiving message to the American people on Thursday, and it had notable differences to President Barack Obama's. According to the Daily Caller, President Obama focused on the need for unification in spite of political differences and ideologies. President Trump chose to praise patriotism and gave thanks to God, mentioning him 9 times. President Obama spoke on what he believes truly binds us as Americans. He says in his message that he wanted to speak on this topic given the recent election he describes as noisy, passionate, and sometimes divisive campaign season. After all, elections are where we emphasize what sets us apart. Much of his message focused on communities, emphasizing the need to look out for one another, especially those with the least. Last year, President Obama contended that the nation was constantly being shaped by those who enter and live in our country, and said the true benefit of our nation was its acceptance of all peoples and the freedoms those people can enjoy. He finished by saying what makes us a great country is not where we come from, what we look like, or what faith we practice, but the ideals to which we pledge our allegiance. President Trump took an entirely different tone with his first Thanksgiving speech, emphasizing patriotism, Christianity, and a conservative retelling of the first Thanksgiving. During his retelling, he told how the Pilgrims' first act upon arriving in America was to pray. He went on to tell that the first Thanksgiving was celebrated by the Pilgrims to express thanks for their good fortune, the help of the Native Americans who assisted them, and to praise God for their provision. President Trump contends that Thanksgiving has since then been a time for Americans to remember the blessings of freedom and the glory of God. Another big emphasis of President Trump's message was to thank those men and women in uniform who are fighting for the safety and freedom of our nation with their courage, heroism, and sacrifice. He also thanked Americans at home, who serve their fellow Americans in need of a helping hand. Families who care for the sick, bring food to the hungry, and provide a loving home for children across the country. President Trump talked about the wonderful unity shown among Americans during the natural disasters seen this year, saying, "This year, in the face of painful hardships, we have seen the incredible strength of the American spirit. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers helping strangers, and citizens reaching out for those in need." He said this unity is inherent in Americans who share the same heart, same home, and the same glorious destiny, saying Americans are bound together by the common bonds of love, loyalty, and affection, that make our country into a wonderful home. Though the messages from both presidents had similarities and a general thankful attitude for the nation they live in and the people in it, each had different reasons to be thankful and different calls to action. President Obama seemed grateful for the freedoms in America that value diversity and community, calling on Americans to be more accepting and united. President Trump was grateful for the freedoms safeguarded by the military, the blessings from God, and called on Americans to strive for greatness and show pride in our nation. It's apparent that President Trump voiced a gratitude for conservative values, giving thanks to God in a way that hadn't been expressed by the previous president. He reminded Americans that the true origin and purpose of Thanksgiving was and is to give thanks to God for blessing the American people with a great bounty and provision. The United States of America is a marvelous country with great freedoms and great promise for those who appreciate and recognize the conservative traditions and values it was originally built on. All thanks to a marvelous God and a patriotic people. President Trump's Thanksgiving Day speech focused on messages of Christianity and patriotism. Are you proud of the speech he delivered?